Hello everyone, it's Oliver here. A couple of years ago I reviewed the Mezco Toys Superman the Movie action figure, which is kind of this little figure here. Very cool to have if you were a kid. It would have been like the best toy to have if you're a Superman fan. And it came with this kind of Fortress of Solitude stand that sort of glows up at a flick of a switch, or you can put the green crystal in and it sort of glows up. And at the end of that video, I'd mentioned that Sideshow were going to be releasing a Superman statue based on Christopher Reeve. Now the price of that was completely out of my range and budget, as it were, but to my surprise this turned up the other day. Now let's unbox this and see what the quality is like, because there has been some controversy about the look of Superman and the face sculpture. So I'm going to show you in detail what it's like and give you my overall opinions on the design. It comes in this kind of polystyrene packaging, very simple to put together, just ginormous statue of Superman minus his head. Comes with a cape which has these kind of velcro sections that attach to the head that needs to be attached when you unzip the costume from the back, and it sort of slots in. The stand itself is quite unique. Essentially the silver logo from the poster with "You'll Believe a Man Can Fly," and underneath it has the Caped Wonder newspaper from the film. Now this is, you know, something that people probably won't see, because you would only know if you actually turn it over and had a look, but most people would be none the wiser. And it does weigh a ton. This is really heavy. If you look very closely at the statue, face on, it doesn't look particularly accurate to Christopher Reeve. Now under certain lighting conditions, it looks very close to him, which is very strange. I suppose it's the fact that when you photograph someone, they're always going to have a bit of shadow to them. But if you photograph the statue with like your camera phone, a lot of light thrown on the face, it's not going to completely resemble Christopher Reeve. Now the side profiles of the statue, he looks absolutely spot on. I suppose he looks closer to how he looks at the end of Superman the movie, in the later part of the filming, because Chris's body sort of changes throughout the movie as he puts on more weight. The costume appears extremely faithful to the film, and I love the fabric. The S symbol on his chest is absolutely spot on to the film. Now I've collected a number of these over the years. We've got the Hot Toys version, which everyone raves about, and which is also no longer being made. It was from over a decade ago. It probably sells for silly prices now. They did put out a Superman 3 one not long after, to sort of recycle the action figure and give the character a bit of stubble and darken the suit to reflect him turning evil. But that's the one everyone's kind of looked at as the best sort of representation of Christopher Reeve as a figure or say statue. There's been ones from NECA, which is another ginormous kind of statue or figure, as it were, that is kind of maybe a 6.5 out of 10 when it comes to resembling Christopher Reeve. The face on is pretty good, but the side profiles don't seem to match him. The giant figure itself is pretty neat, with the cape being really good fabric, sort of resembling Chris during Richard Donner's cut of Superman 2. They sort of look at the end where the Fortress of Solitude, it kind of resembles that earlier footage compared to the later footage where Chris is a bit more bulky come Superman 2. And we've also got the Mattel one, which is hardly close to what Christopher Reeve looks like. I mean, it's kind of there. It's also nice having a bit of the Fortress of Solitude kind of set piece to put the green crystal in. But that was very early on that sort of came out, and it was, so to most fans of Christopher Reeve, they kind of enjoyed it because it was something to have. That, you know, for many years there's never been any Christopher Reeve related items. So having something like that was kind of unique, but it wasn't particularly faithful to Chris and how he looked on film. The Mezco one as an action figure is pretty close to how Chris looked, but it's not perfect by any means. But for a toy, it's very close. I mean, when you're a kid, when you collected perhaps maybe the Batman Returns figures, they look pretty close to Michael Keaton. So if that came out in the 90s, it would have been absolutely perfect, or perhaps the 1980s when the films were out in the cinemas. In terms of this and the quality of the design, I mean, I have no issues with the build quality of this. I think it absolutely looks stunning, but for the cost that goes into this, which is going to be $700, maybe $600, and if you include shipping with all that, it's a very pricey collectible. Now, As I mentioned earlier with this turning up at my house, this was actually a gift from my friend who sort of did a combined birthday Christmas present of last year. Now this obviously got delayed and delayed and delayed. And my friend didn't pay for this all up front. You know, he paid for it with installments. I did sort of tell him off for being a bit too generous with his money, but each year we always sort of, you know, try and think of something cool to get each other for Christmas or birthday. And one year I tried to find all the Alien 3 collectibles I could find, not just kind of, you know, new stuff, but old stuff from the 90s. And so, because he was a big fan of that movie. So in the case of this, I was just a little bit apprehensive at first and worried, because if it didn't look great, I'd feel bad because my friend had spent loads of money on it. You know, no, it'd be awful to sort of get something and go, oh, this is shit. And I spent like over £500. But thankfully, I love it. I think it's really good. And, I think it's, in terms of the shape of the body and the shape of the head, it's the closest to look like Chris. Where the Hot Toys one, it's just like the head's amazing, but the body isn't completely accurate. You know what I mean? So as a statue, yeah, it's a statue again. It's a shame you can't like adjust the arms or whatever, put them in a cool flying position or something, you know. These aren't to play with, you know what I mean? It's still a part of my mind where you think, oh, action, it's like that kid part of your mind. We think, I want to play with this again, but you can't. You're an adult. I'm 40. You can't be playing with this. So it's got to look just there to look at and admire, you know. So it has to be a statue. And it's a very good one. And yeah, I'm really thrilled to have it. But, you know, as some of my friends who also, you know, had pre-ordered this, they had actually cancelled their orders. Down to the fact that he didn't look completely accurate to Christopher Reeve. But as you can see from some of the footage I've shown, if you light it in a certain way, it's absolutely kind of bang on. But then there's moments where it doesn't look completely accurate. And I think that's across all of the Christopher Reeve Superman statues from Hot Toys, NECA, Mattel, and so forth. They've always kind of pros and cons to them. Either one will have a really good face, or the suit doesn't look completely accurate, because the Hot Toys one, the S chest piece, doesn't look accurate. So that's why a lot of fans have actually changed their costume on their toy, because it's a bit like an action man. You know, you take the suit off, it's kind of like you can just put another suit on. And people have done better versions. And in the case of this, you can probably take the head off and get an artist to do a new head sculpt for you. But that, you know, could be very costly. But the face did change during the course of when they advertised it and when they finally released it, because people took photos at conventions where Sideshow had brought out this kind of, I suppose, early prototype or maybe the finished design, and people had gone, oh no, it doesn't look like Chris, because people were just photographing it with their phone with this kind of harsh lighting on it. But if you put it in the right, as I say, if you put it in the right conditions of lighting, it looked spot on, and the side profiles of him is the best, absolutely amazing. So I'm not disappointed, you know, with the overall design. You know, there was this kind of worry that it would look completely inaccurate to how Christopher Reeve looks. I think Christopher Reeve is a very difficult individual to sort of capture perfectly in terms of artwork and statues, because I think he has a very symmetrical face. If one thing is not completely similar to him in terms of his nose, the bridge of his eyebrows and the eyes are right, it just throws it all off. One little thing, like the eyes, if it's not done right, it doesn't look like the person. I mean, it has that weird uncanny valley kind of look to it, perhaps. And, you know, I've seen loads of artwork over the years where people have tried to draw Christopher Reeve. I think maybe Alex Ross is probably the best person at it. But in terms of sculpting, I think it's kind of 90% there. It's strange in a way where the artists throughout the years have sculptured Christopher Reeve's face for these toys and statues that he's always looking grumpy or very serious, where Chris didn't really have that. You know, he was serious in the role, of course, in some scenes, but he'd often be slightly smirking or smiling, and this one has a little bit of a smirk to him, and that really sort of captures Christopher Reeve's portrayal of Superman, that he, you know, has always got a bit of a smile on him, and not just like dead serious or he looks really angry. Like the NECA one, he looks really pissed off, you know. So, but the cape itself, as it attaches on, it's got the, you know, how he holds the cape on his shoulders. It's always nicely folded in, and the cape's kind of wide at the bottom, so you can kind of adjust it if need be. My friend said to me, a close friend of mine, said, Oliver, would you spend nearly £700 on this? And I said, no, I wouldn't, because I can't afford that. I think many of us can't afford that. But not everyone is in the same boat. There's a lot of people out there who have a lot of money. And those people who like collecting movie memorabilia will probably put down the cash to get this. But they may have had their own, worries and concerns and probably saw it and gone, a bit umming about it. But some of my friends who had cancelled their order are regretting it now, because I sent them a number of images I filmed and screen grabbed and sent to them, said, look, this is kind of what it looks like. And they're like, oh wow, this looks a lot better than what I expected. With each Christopher Reeve collectible that comes out, they get better and better, I think. And this is like the next step on, I think. I think this really is getting close to being absolutely 100% where you can go, now that is Superman. I am really happy with it. I would never get rid of it. The cost is completely ludicrous. Sideshow are always expensive. My friend who had paid for this said their customer service was abysmal. And for those who are on the fence and have the cash, you may have been persuaded to go get this. I don't know. They made 6,000 of these. So I've got number 1845, I think. So, but I do know they've had a number of cancellations. So maybe those people will be like, oh no, I want to get it back now because they've seen this video and actually seeing the statue in more detail. But you may have changed your mind entirely and want to cancel your order and don't want to buy it, which is completely fair, which I'm not going to argue about. I don't think there's going to be any more Chris Reeve stuff coming out at the moment. There's a couple of things I missed out that came out a couple of years ago. There's a cool Chris Reeve kind of little statue where he's posing on the American flag from Superman 2. But like any other fan of a franchise like Superman, Star Wars, Indiana Jones or whatever, whenever you see a new thing coming out, especially with Christopher Reeve related stuff, I am a bit like Smithers and Malibu Stacy.
But she's got a new hat.
When I see it, I want it, and I am running out of space to put these things. So I've already filled up my glass cabinet with all these kind of like collectibles. So yeah, this is now got to sit in my office, which I'm very happy to have it next to my computer. I'll always be, and always will be, a big fan of Christopher Reeve as Superman, because he was my Superman. I think he is still Superman to many people, despite him, not being around for many years, and he died too young. It's always a heartbreaking thing, about when he broke his neck. As a kid, I was just like destroyed by that, and when he died, it was like, oh, an icon of my youth, who you looked up to is now gone. But he's still here in spirit, I suppose, isn't he? And anything like I see come along with Chris Reeve on it as Superman, it's like, yes, I've got to add that to my collection. Sometimes I'm a little bit picky because some things don't look, I don't really need it. But in the case of this, I couldn't afford it, but I have some very kind and generous friends who are willing to sort of get stuff for me, and that's, it's always nice to have friends like that. So yeah, well everyone, that is the end of the video. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you found it informative. I will be back with some more videos very soon. Take care of yourselves and goodbye.
If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like button and click the bell to be notified of my latest retrospectives and reviews. Big thanks to my patrons for supporting the channel. If you want to get involved and gain early access to my content and exclusive videos, then follow the link below.
Superman, doopadoo.